Welcome to Layer the Alchemist, where we discuss all things heavy metal and hard rock. On today's episode, ranking the 70s era Judas Priest albums. My first Judas Priest record was British Steel, and then I followed them pretty much for every record after that. And I didn't discover the 70s era of the band till, probably like 85, somewhere in there, 86. I was really late to the 70s stuff. I just didn't see it in my record stores. And I was hearing some of it on college radio, metal shows. But someone lent me Unleashed in the East, and I heard it, and I just loved it. It sounded like the 80s stuff, but it had a little bit of a different vibe to it. It was a little bit more, I don't want to say progressive, but there was a little more going on with the riffing. It felt a little bit more experimental or something to me, and I went on and got the 70s stuff, and I just love it. So I'm a big fan of the 70s era of Judas Priest, so I thought it would be fun to try to rank the 70s era albums. I love all these records, so this is really pretty hard to do. They had 5 albums out in the 70s. I'm going to give them also a numerical rating from 0 to 10. All right, my number 5 pick is their first album, Rock-a-Rolla. I do really like this record, and it's an album that I kind of find myself sometimes really getting into because it's so different from the rest of their catalog. It reminds me of the first Black Sabbath album in the sense that they're still trying to find their sound. They still have a foot kind of in the blues. You get a little bit of a psychedelic thing here with Winter, Deep Freeze, and that kind of thing, Caviar and Meths. So they're still sort of searching around. They're still looking for their sound. The performances are good on it. It feels like Rob hasn't quite 100% found his metal god voice here, but it's still really cool. I mean, One for the Road, I love that song with its 5/4 riff. The title track, Rock-a-Rolla, is awesome. I mean, they just played that on their most recent tour. What else do we have on here? Never Satisfied is really great. I really love that one. Run of the Mill is really cool. Dying to Meet You, Hero, Hero. So it's a cool record. The drumming from John Hinch is a little bit restrained. It's kind of cool, but for me, it wasn't until Simon Phillips and Les Binks came into the band, recorded with them, that the drumming sort of kept up with where the riffing was on their record. So cool album, fun album to come back to because it is so different. I give it a 7.5 out of 10. All right, next for me is Killing Machine or Hellbent for Leather. Martin Popoff is going to be mad at me for this one because I know I think that's Martin's favorite Judas Priest album. He thinks very highly of it. And I do really like the record. Delivering the Goods is awesome. Rock Forever is really cool. Hellbent for Leather is a heavy metal anthem of the ages. Take on the World. I love when Priest does these sort of metal family sing-along type songs like United and Defenders of the Faith, and here Take on All the World. The title track, or for certain versions of the title track, Killing Machine is really cool. Running Wild is awesome. Before the Dawn is a really cool sort of deep cut Priest ballad for me. But there's a couple songs on here that don't do it for me. I don't really care for Evening Star. I don't like Burnin' Up. And Even Evil Fantasies is like, kind of okay for me. So that loses it a little. I really like the production on this. I like the production on the record, but for me, just those one or two songs that kind of don't work so much for me. So this album for me gets an 8 out of 10. All right, number 3 for me is Sin After Sin. Now we're really getting into territory of just albums that I love these albums. Roger Glover produced this record, and for me, this is one of the maybe slight little downsides of it is that the production on it is a little muted or dull or something. These songs come to life a little bit better, a lot better in my opinion, on Unleashed in the East. Simon Phillips is on drums here as a studio musician, and he's like a jazz guy, but it's cool, it works because he just does a lot of busy. He's a great drummer and adds a lot of interesting drum things. Sinner is amazing. Diamonds and Rust, Judas Priest was great at doing cover songs and taking them and making their own. Starbreaker's really cool. Last Rose of Summer is a nice ballad. There's still a little bit of a holdover from you know, the stuff that they were doing on like the first record, you know, and that kind of for me, Last Rose of Summer is a little bit of that. I still like it though. Let Us Pray, Call for the Priest, super cool. Raw Deal, love it. Here Come the Tears, I love. And Dissonant Aggressor is absolutely amazing. It's gotta be one of the heaviest songs at that time. Pound for pound, right up there with anything that Sabbath was doing at this point. It's almost like a very forward thinking metal song, and in a way Dissonant Aggressor would foreshadow the album that will come next, but that album is not next on my pick. My number two, okay, so I would give Sin After Sin a 9 out of 10 because I do love the record. The album cover is amazing. All right, my second favorite 70s era Priest album is Sad Wings of Destiny. Absolutely love this album cover. Here the production is nothing hi-fi, but it works better on this record for me. It gives it more atmosphere. Victim of Changes, Priest, classic that they play in their set lists all the time. The Ripper is amazing. For me, Rob really starts to find his voice on this record. This is the second Judas Priest album. You hear this in like the song The Ripper. Dreamer Deceiver, Tyrant is amazing. Love it. Genocide is super cool. Island of Domination. This was one of my deep cuts when we did our Judas Priest deep cuts record. I just love the mood and atmosphere of this record. It's a big step up for me from Rock-a-Rolla. They're getting more focused here. Rob really coming into his own. The playing is great. Alan Moore's drumming, unfortunately, for me, again, I mentioned this earlier, I wish that Les Banks had come into the band a little bit sooner, or maybe if they had someone like Simon Phillips. It's just, it doesn't push these songs as much as I would like the drums to do. But it's still an amazing record. It's a 10 out of 10 for me. Absolutely love it. All right, my number one favorite 70s era Judas Priest record and one of my favorite metal albums of all time is Stained Class. This is a perfect album in my opinion. This is Judas Priest really hitting the bullseye, their sound coming into crystal metallic focus. In my opinion, this is, and maybe this will be a topic of another video, one of the first really pure heavy metal albums from top to bottom. It's a very forward-thinking record, foreshadowing a lot of what's to come with heavy metal. You've got the opener, Exciter, which is an early speed metal, thrash metal number here. Les Banks on drums, an amazing drum intro here. He drives all these songs. The guitar playing and the riffing on this is great. The production on this album is awesome. White Heat, Red Hot, Better By You, Better Than Me, another amazing cover. Stained Class, I love it. Rob's delivery on this song is amazing. The way his range here is just off the charts. Just amazing what Rob is doing with his voice on this album. So many different things. And the lyrics are great. This is something that when the 80s rolled around, I think that Judas Priest started to dumb their lyrics down a little bit, or sometimes a lot. But in the 70s here, their lyrics were great, like Sin After Sin, and here on Stained Class, the lyrics are amazing. I love Invader. Saints in Hell, fantastic. Savage. Beyond the Realms of Death, one of the greatest epic dark metal ballads of all time. And then Heroes End is an amazing album closer. So this album for me is a solid metal 10 out of 10. Solid gold medal 10 out of 10. It is just perfect. All right, there you go. There's my ranking of the 70s era Judas Priest albums. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Let me know your rankings of the 70s stuff, or maybe what your favorite 70s Priest era album was. And until we see you again, make sure you keep defending the faith.